Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Talking Triathlon, a podcast with the least original name in the world because we talk about triathlon. I normally talk to triathlon with James Bale, but he is not here this week. So instead, I have roped in a few guests this week, and I thought I would start with one of my favorite triathletes going around, the pocket rocket himself, Tyler Mislawchuk. Tyler, how you going, mate?
Yeah, good. Thanks for having me on. James, where are you, buddy?
The Mislawchuk missile is what I should have called you. I always like that. That's the little like unofficial nickname. You got, mate, how you going? You've just got back from Hamburg. Looks like it was a
Yeah.
rough weekend in Germany.
Yeah, I mean, it was Germany is not forgiving that course. It's a tough course and sprint distance, like small percentages like make it such a big difference, especially over the WTS. You're off like 30 seconds and it's first 21st place, which I got, not really an ideal race setup for me. It was freezing cold day and pissing rain before, and we're standing on the start line shaking. So, for those of you who don't know me, I'm not a cold weather specialist by any means. So, um, yeah, that's the thing with WTS. You don't really get to choose your races as much, so you kind of have to rock with the punches. And someone asked me, I got back to flag yesterday. It's like he just started watching WTS this year to watch me, and he's like, watch the three WTSs, and he goes, do all of them rain? Because Yokohama was pissing rain, Hamburg was pissing rain, Algero was beautiful, but um, yeah, just not a great day, but some good redemption on the relay.
Certainly was. I find myself, I don't know what it is about the mixed team relay, but I sort of forget about it, and then I turn it on. I go, no, this is the best thing going in short course triathlon at the moment. It's so exciting to watch. It's such a good format. And I mean, I'm also not going to complain considering Australia won, which is always nice to see as well. So,
Yeah, I mean, to be there, Hamburg is like the best venue in short course. It's kind of like, I don't know, it's like the Roth of short course, the equivalent of where like fans just get so into it. You can hear while you're swimming, you can hear people, which is like completely unique because it's right along a canal. And
mm,
then you get in that team relay format, you're in front of these beautiful, buildings that have been there for hundreds of years. And yeah, I mean, we had a pretty young team on Team Canada, so a lot of them like first or second time doing the relay and like just kind of being in shock too, especially it's different doing a relay in Kelowna, BC, Canada, and then coming to Germany when you have thousands of people screaming and you're in the mix at World Champs. But yeah, Australia got the better of us. We were with Australia the third leg, eh? But
mm.
say
We will get into the specifics, but before we do, I thought we'd just have a little bit of a chat because this is quite an interesting year for you, Tyler. Last year was the Olympics, and this year, I know that you won your first 70.3 round debut, and I know the plan is to probably do a bit more 70.3 racing, potentially maybe something a little bit longer. We don't know yet. But when you were talking about the fact that WTCS, you don't get to pick your races, I was like separate to this conversation when I was thinking about it yesterday. I was thinking, how good is it going to be for Tyler when he starts racing 70.3s where he can actually just pick races that are hot and he doesn't have to worry about these horrible cold races anymore?
yeah, not even hot, but just like normal temp. I'll take that where it's not pissing rain and like 4 degrees out. Um, Yeah, and I think there's more you can control and temperature control and long course too, because if you're off like a percent or two at the start of a 70.3, it's not a big deal. Versus if you're off a percent or two in a sprint distance triathlon, that's the difference between being on the wheel and being dropped or being aggressive and not. Obviously, like the high level of 70.3, there's not much room for error, but it's still 2 hours of riding versus 24 minutes on the bike, ripping around a crit loop. But
Yeah.
yeah, that's definitely one thing I look forward to. I'll tell you that.
No, you're absolutely right. I think you do realize that the margins of error are much, much smaller. And I mean, I know that we've discussed this to death over the years, but I feel like people don't realize just how small those percentage differences really are. Like, you're right. You can do a 70.3 and you can get a couple of minutes off the bike or out of the swim difference. You can still like look what Sam Long and Lionel Sanders do in a 70.3, where if like let's not even take them as long course athletes. Let's literally say that they somehow through magic they've got the same skill set but at short course they would never they would never even be in the mix because this that you can't make up that sort of that gap in short course racing. It's just not possible because the field ahead is so strong and everybody can swim, bike, and run really well.
Yeah, I mean, it's a different, a little bit of a different skill set, but I mean, again, when you're getting into these T100 races, it's not that big of a percentage, but I mean, it still is a few minutes. When you're talking about the podium, it's not the matter of 20 guys within 60 seconds. So, a bit of a different game. Funny note, side note, like off track, I thought it was funny. I was at, I think it was the Famil in Hamburg, and I won't say who. And they said, "Oh, you're racing this?" And I was like, "What do you mean?" And they're like, "I thought you were a long course guy now." And I was like, it was like, they're like, "Yeah, you've done a bunch of them." And I was like, "Yeah, I've done two." And they're like, "Yeah, I never thought I'd see you again." And I was like, "I literally raced Yokohama. I was sixth." And they're like, "Oh, yeah, you did. I forgot about that." And I was like, "Cool. Hey."
Amazing. Amazing,
Yeah.
amazing, amazing. I mean, you talked about the T100 and the impact. I mean, another thing that I guess is, again, sorry guys, we're jumping around a little bit,
Yeah.
but you also did that T100 in Singapore. I know you were sick, but you raced with Vincent Louis, and a guy like Vince is someone you've raced probably your entire short course career has been against Vince.
Yeah.
And Vince did his Ironman debut a couple of weeks ago in Challenge Roth. And I don't know if I'd spoken with you about this, but I know speaking with others, I expected Vince to get absolutely destroyed because I'd seen him in T100 as just the second he get on the bike, go backwards. And I was really pleasantly surprised at his performance. And was talking with a few people afterwards. And again, I'm not throwing any shade, but I think it just also shows the difference that that 12 meter versus 20 meter draft zone makes as well, where at 12 meters, an athlete like Vince, who is a strong enough cyclist, but can work with the group enough to sort of hang on and then, deliver a decent run. So, yeah, it's very interesting to see the way that all these different sorts of variations of particular rules and dynamics and things can impact the way
Yeah. I mean,
races
I
unfold
was
as well.
chatted after. I mean, everyone was so impressed with how we rode. I mean, I think it is a huge difference, 12 meters to 20. And I think sometimes you take it for granted. Some of these ITU guys, like, for example, Martin or Yella, who have figured out, riding a TT bike like super quick. But you've got to think like Vince has been doing it for whatever, 15 years. And he's probably how many minutes or hours he spent on a road bike versus a TT bike. Like it's
Mm.
probably, 99.5% to 0.5% right now. And so I imagine his riding is going to get better and better and better. But I think sometimes at like fans or myself or you or people, like we just automatically think like you jump on a TT bike and even though Vince is like a really strong rider in short course, you just assume like, oh, he's going to be smashing off the front. But it is a different set of muscles and it is like a learning curve of, figuring out how to ride that position, even, riding within the 20-meter zone and using it to your advantage. I didn't really get to do it in Singapore because I was sick and just I was dog shit. But but like it is a game of like figuring out how to like stay in that 20 to 22-meter draft zone rather than like riding on a wheel. There's a skill set there that maybe is underrated.
Um, I guess it's a good opportunity to talk to you because you're not just talking about this abstract. You're actually experiencing this at the moment. I mean, again, I know we've spoken about it a lot, but you are having to get used to the TT position. What are some of the challenges you have personally found making
Yeah.
that switch?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is like I've spent, like I've just said about Vince, I spent all my life on a road bike. And so you're used to using these certain muscles, or, when you're getting tired, finding a way to like push through. And when you're on a TT bike, you're in such a stable position that you can't really like get out of the saddle the same way to, move around on your bike. You're just locked in the same position. So when you fatigue out, there's less muscling it, I would say.
Mm.
No, it's hard in the sense that if you're doing a 30-minute effort on a road bike, usually you're getting out of the saddle, you're coming back, you're changing position. When you're locked in for 30 minutes, there's not much change in muscle group, and I think like just getting used to that, and also the fact that I mean it's different energy systems, right? I don't know. I've never trained with Vince, so I don't know his energy systems. Like, what's his strengths to weaknesses? Like for me personally, the hardest part is I struggle in the middle, more in the middle than on either end. So on paper, I should be better at Ironman and super sprint and Olympic versus the middle threshold power is a bit of a unknown. So who knows for someone like Vince, maybe he's, more suited to Ironman power and just staying at that, whatever zone you want to call Ironman power, because it's different for everyone. But, you look at it, maybe it's like, maybe he's just suited more to ride that than to ride, 20, 30 watts higher, 40 watts higher for 2 hours. Cause I mean, it's a different race. There, yeah, you
Mm.
can be good at both, but it's 2 hours of riding versus four. And it's the same way. I think the 4 hour ride would be a lot more relatable to, like I go out and ride 4 hours endurance. And like a good example would be like I rode 4 hours endurance a couple weeks ago before this Morocco in Hamburg. And I did like, let's say 4 hours at 230 watts and I'm 60 kilos. I don't imagine that's a crazy difference between what I'd push in an Ironman, you know? And
Hmm.
so without even knowing, Vince or myself or some of these guys might push a lot more Ironman power workouts without even knowing because it's just part of the endurance program versus my career. I haven't spent a lot of time at actually 70.3 power because it's kind of, well, in short course world would be considered gray zone. So it's not that I can't do it. It's just maybe that I haven't done that power range or zone as much as some other athletes.
Can I ask as well, because you, in that Pucon 70.3 in January where you won,
Yeah.
you ran a 70-minute off the bike, outran Jason West.
Mm-hmm.
I suppose one of the biggest differences to the longer stuff compared to short course is that the power is theoretically a bit more consistent. Like I know that short course racing is very surgy. Did you feel that? But like, did you feel off the bike able to maybe run a bit better? I'm not sure if that's the right word, but did you feel like the more consistent power sort of set you up for a like what was it? I guess what I'm asking is what was it like to run off a more consistent bike effort?
Yeah, I mean, that's what it's totally different than short course because I got off and again, it was a complete unknown. I've never rode 90K effort in the TT bike continuous and had to run a half marathon off. I've obviously done either or separately, but I think the difference is when you override in short course because the power profile is so spiky that sometimes you just, cardiovascular is fine and you think you're fine, you get off and your legs are just kind of zapped. Versus 70.3 that for that one, I wasn't as zapped, but you just have more of a deep muscle fatigue,
Mm.
which is much more bearable to running fast. But that's a hard question because the 70-minute half I ran had 400 meters of elevation and
Yeah.
it was over only 7K of the running. So it was like, it was either running flat and or smashing straight up a hill or straight down. So there wasn't as much like maybe rhythm,
Okay.
which is what resolves fast. I mean, the guy who was third, Manuel Messias, ran, for context, he ran 113 on that course. And then he ran 226 for
I
the
know.
marathon.
It's true, isn't it?
And Jason, who had just come ninth at Worlds a month before in Taupo, he ran 112 or something. So
Mm.
it was not a sexy course or maybe a course to judge perfectly how good I feel. And then yeah, Singapore I had no context because I was just finishing it out of respect of being sick in that. So I wouldn't say that I completely know what that feels like, but I would like to do, and I'm going to do some different races that maybe have some, as you would say, sexier runs, so I can
Yeah.
kind of feel out how you actually are supposed to.
I love it. Well, look, let's talk about WTCS Hamburg happened over the weekend, and again, it's a good opportunity to talk to somebody who I've watched the race. I've watched the races, but you, I guess, in them. Uh, what do you think? What do you think about WTCS Hamburg?
I mean, Hauser is the first thing. It's crazy. Hey, that guy is
Yeah.
the. I was in Girona with him and his coach Dan and a few of the guys, really nice guys, but he's just a specimen. Hey, it's just
Yeah.
incredible. Watch that to watch the individual and then watch the relay as well. Just him come back and basically pull them back from where they basically handed off right in front of us and came back and won. I think it's just crazy the shape he's in over that shorter stuff. I mean over longer stuff too, but that's his kind of wheelhouse. And yeah, on top of that, it was a big boys race. If you look at the results, colder day, the course profile and that, like a lot of the guys in the top 10 were big on the bigger side of fellows in terms of short course triathlon. So just an observation after for myself, like I said earlier, it was just not a great day. I'm sitting talking to you. I'm a bit under the weather, so not that that's an excuse, but to be honest, the cold race after the first day, I had such a bad race. I was like, maybe I don't have the speed anymore because I've been doing a lot of maybe longer training. I've been doing just Olympic distances, 70.3s, and I thought maybe I don't have the speed anymore. This sprint stuff's hurting this old man at 30 years old. And then I went out the next day, the relay, which is way faster and way more intense, and had a sunny day and had the third fastest split out of everyone. So it turned out that it was not maybe the speed, but the weather probably that played a factor in my poor performance. Um, but yeah, it's
I
funny how your head changes like that.
I find it so fascinating this year that like the last few years when we've had the Alex Yee and Hayden Wilds race in WTCS, it's kind of
Yeah,
felt like a bit of a two-horse race. Every race you're like, for fucking hell, it's going to be Alex Yee's going to run, Hayden's gonna try to attack, Alex is going to sit on his shoulder, and with about a kilometer to go, Alex is going to drop and Hayden won't be able to. And that's literally anytime those two race WTCS, that seems to happen. And a big thing for me this year that I was excited about was like, well, we'll remove those two from the equation and it's going to open everything up. I was wrong because what we have instead is the same thing happening, except now it's Matthew Hauser and Vasco Vilaca, where you've got, and Miguel Hidalgo obviously is up there as well.
yeah,
But I do really feel like it is very much just these two guys going head to head constantly. And every single time it feels like Hauser just has Vasco's number just that little bit. And again, I don't think I would have anticipated it being so. I think I probably would have expected them to go blow for blow a little bit more.
yeah,
Uh, but Hauser's just, he's having that year, mate. Like if this is that season, I think like Matt Hauser, and I know that, everybody who knows him thinks he's an absolute legend. I have a lot of time for Matty Hauser. It's really good to see him having that year too, because I feel like if you look at the last few years of results for him, it probably hasn't spoken of the talent that he has and the work that he puts in. So it is really good to see him being on that, on that path to, it looks like he's probably going to win a world title this year.
yeah. To be honest, when the year started in my head, no offense to anyone else, but I had this feeling that Matt Hauser was going to be world champion.
Yeah.
Um, and it's looking that way. Things can always change. In the last few years, the grand final, because it's three scores plus the grand final. So if you DNF the grand final, you're pretty much out of world, and someone has a decent race. So it really, the way they set it up really does depend on the grand final, because he could be killing everyone and then, get taken out in a crash or something happen and get
Yeah.
sick. And some Vasco could be world, or Dalgo, or, whoever. But what is interesting is that there's been breakaways in every race this year other than Abu Dhabi,
Mm.
which is kind of good to see. Even with Alex and Hayden back in the mix, you wonder like if they're not making the front group of 10, which historically those guys don't come out top 10. Maybe they will now, but historically is do the guys even push harder on the bike, or they? I think they're already pushing to the absolute limit. But it is a changing of guard, because we didn't really have any breakaways in the last few years that
Mm.
I could count on one hand, and now we've had three breakaways in three races, or with the whole race isn't together. Um, yeah, I mean, one
Yeah.
quick note on Matty
Yeah.
Hauser before we go off is we did in 2019 we did a little training camp in Girona, Spain, and Matt would have been, I mean, that's 6 years ago. I think he would have been 21 or 22, and I remember doing a hill rep session on the bike with him and some runs and a few swims, and just being like, this guy is insane, And I had just won the test event. I just podiumed at WTS, and I was just thinking like, this guy is so good, and this, like, he's 21. I'm like, this guy is going to be multiple time world champion. So it's pretty cool to see it, see him come from, he won junior worlds and under, he's done it all, but just to see a good dude winning too is fun for me.
Yeah, I completely agree. So we had Matt Hauser in first place, Vasco Velasquez in second place, and in third place we had Alessio Crociani. Now, again, you talk about changing the guard, and I know he's not a complete unknown, but this is the first time I think he's been on a WTCS podium. So again, a
Yeah.
real breakthrough for performance for him too. And I think that's something we are seeing this year, right? Is that we are, because it is right post Olympics, we're starting a new Olympic cycle. You're starting to see those names who haven't featured over the last 48 years who are going to start to pop up more and more. And yeah, I mean, I thought that for him, yeah, so it was great to see.
Huge result. He's a funny guy too. I mean, he raced a 70.3 last month and won one. I think this is his first WTS of the year. But
Yep.
I mean, obviously he ran well too from the break. But he's an absolutely stud swimmer and biker. So, and it looked, I mean, you look at the top 10, it was a swim, bike, and then you also have to run fast. But obviously when you're that good, he let out of the water. Um, yeah, he's a stud young guy, funny guy. He trains in Girona actually with PTC, like Martin Van Riel's group and
Yep.
that. So definitely under good leadership there.
The one so we talk about that new garden names to watch, and I think the name that I am watching with the most interest at the moment, and this is it's somebody that I tried to get racing Supertri for Crown this year, but I've also heard lots of different people talking about him, and that's Henry Graf, the young German, and to see the way he sort of took out the bike, really, you know, racing very, very aggressively, and unfortunately just had that slight little crash off the front. I feel like we were robbed of what could have been like, again, I still think it was a really sort of breakout performance for him, but he's an athlete for me. I think he's like, I'm gonna, he's one to watch. I think over the next couple of years. I think I mean, I've heard a lot of people. I can't even remember who it was, but basically said like for Germans, they're saying he could be the next sort of Jan Frodeno style athlete for Germany. And yeah, he was another one that I was very impressed to see the way he sort of took the race by the neck.
I heard about him a few years ago from one of the other German athletes who said like, watch out for this guy. Like his testing numbers across swimming, biking, and running are just insane, but he
Mm.
just hasn't put it together yet. I know he was up there. I think he's figured out the sprint distance for sure. I mean, great result in Hamburg, and I think he was fifth or sixth maybe in Abu Dhabi. Don't he was definitely up there in that race as well. So
Mm.
he's definitely figured out the sprint distance, and I think he was in Yokohama, but he got sick before the race, and pretty much everyone got sick after that race. So he was one of the many victims. But yeah, I mean, to race that aggressively, I don't think people understand how aggressive a sprint distance WTS is. I just know it from the years of athletes within Canada or other countries do their first WTS, and a lot of them have wanted to do it at Hamburg, and they just get absolutely spit out the back. And to see a guy like that who's like not raced that many WTSs on the front, off the front, it's just like it's crazy perspective to anyone who's ever raced one of those. Is like this the pure watts and speed and everything needed to do that is insane.
Yeah. Let's turn our attention now to the women's race because the women's field, like, look, the men's race wasn't not stacked, but the women's race was stacked. And it's funny
Best
that,
run of the year for women, I think that was like a lot of the top hitters attended.
yeah. And Léonie Périault did what she seems to do every year, and she pulls out the victory that, not that it's not expected, but it's always a little bit of a surprise. She did it, I think, in Yokohama last year. But Léonie Périault won the race, Cassandre Beaugrand in second. Beth Potter made what is a relatively infrequent appearance this year for third place. But I mean, so many different perform. You know, we saw the return of Emma Lombardi, we saw Georgia Taylor Brown come back, we saw Kate Wolf come back. So many of these names that we're used to seeing come back, and to be honest, it's great to see that again, those new names popping up that are, holding their own. Jolene Vermeulen did really well. Tilda Manson did really, really well. Jean Leher, who's sort of looking at like one of the real shining stars this year, was only good enough for seventh. I mean, Lisa Tersch, another one that I thought of, is sort of been on a hot one for
Yeah.
ninth. So again, women's race was very fascinating.
Yeah, I mean, probably the biggest surprise for me in the women's was Lisa Tersch off the front of the bike soloing for one lap. I don't think many people have that on their bingo card starting 2025, but I've heard that she's working with a swim team, someone told me. And so
Okay.
she did that. She had a little breakaway in Tizzy the weekend before, and now this. So, and I think one of the other races, she was like one of the top two or three out of the water. And I was like, this is not, she's always been a solid swimmer, but obviously she's worked on taken to another level, but yeah, didn't quite have the run. But yeah, I mean, those top women is just the class of running, right? This this
Mm.
this race played out the exact opposite of how the men's race played out. It was 45 women together spinning around on the course, versus the men's race was just shrapnel.
Yeah.
It's funny how that works. And their race was sunny. It dried up and got nice, and the clouds went away. So just completely different races. Um, and was you'd say a runner's race, like you said, Leonie is like one of the best runners the sport's ever seen. You remember back to like Snowsill and all that, and I think she could run with them. She's a special talent. So yeah, not surprising, but surprising at the same time, as you said.
Then the other one was Beth Potter again, who I said, like, I know she's been on some start lists, but I don't know. I feel like she's sort of going under the radar a bit this year. I mean, we can jump ahead a little bit, but to the mixed team relay, where it was that sort of group of women I think it was this third leg when they were, anyway, whenever Beth was, and I know that I expected, that must have been the first leg, but I saw that small group of women sort of broke away and I expected Beth to go with, and she started to lose time. And I was like, Jesus Christ, okay. So to see her then in the main event come in third, I thought was, again, it's like good to see, but I still feel like Beth Potter, a couple of years ago, I felt like there was this real momentum going behind her. And I don't know why, but I just kind of feel like it's shifted a little bit. I think that Cassandre Beaugrand has like gone to another level in a lot of ways. Again, she had that crash, and I was very curious to see how it impacted it. But for her to come back and win the next WTCS and now come second, I think that Cassandra's looking pretty good this year. But yeah, it's. I find the women's racing at the moment so interesting just to see. There's so many dynamics. I mean, the fact that Kate Woff's come back after just doing a bunch of T100 races really well, and is still top 10 like she was, last year.
Which is pretty impressive.
Yeah.
Because coming to Olympic and sprint, like I said, there is a big difference between the two in WTS, just the speed required. So pretty damn impressive. On the Beth front, I mean, it's tough to like do a 4-year cycle and come off. And Beth, I think, would be one of the older women who's at the top right now. Léonie too, because Sandra's a bit younger. I mean, none of them are young by any means, but none of them are old. But I think sometimes like Beth might, hasn't raced as much this year, but if I were in her position, I'd probably be doing the same thing. But I think also just as fans in that, or, from the side, you always like the shiny new toy, and Cassandra is that fast. I mean, Olympic champion, right? Everyone wants to get on board. And I think Beth is running just as well as she ever has. I mean, they ran 15:30 or something like that. The course might have been a bit short, but that's probably some of the fastest woman running that we've ever seen.
Yeah.
And Beth there. So it's like, at one hand, you're like, oh, not as much momentum, but it's like, well, she just did run one of the fastest runs. It just happens that there's two French women right in front of her, her perspective. Exactly. It's like so much of how you look at it, right? Like, I guess you have a different perspective than I do, than George from Utah or Benny from South Africa, it really depends how you're looking at it. And like just being in it, I think it puts a different perspective on it.
I think that similar to Henry Graff in the men's, Jolien Vermeulen is another one of those names that I'm like really watching. Very like she's my one to watch at the moment. The way she was in the mixed team relay as well.
More impressive is she raced Tizzy the weekend before, which is double sprint distance. So she did a semifinal and final, and then she went to Hamburg, raced another sprint and a relay. So she did 3 sprint distance triathlons and a relay in a 7-day span, which is, again, everyone's like, oh, it's not as long as a Ironman or whatever. So yeah, it doesn't matter. But the high intensity it just zaps your nervous system. So for her to bounce back, to be honest, is pretty impressive. I thought maybe even with Lisa Tur, she had raced the weekend before, and I thought, oh, maybe that played into, just being a bit tired. I know Team Canada, we spoke, and it was like, if we want to do well in the relay, probably don't race Tizzy because that'll be 4 races in 7 days, So we chose that route.
We sort of touched on the relay early, so I don't think we need to go into too much detail. I just encourage everybody to go and watch it because, again, it's good. The only thing I want to touch on before we move on to Supertri a little bit is just about Georgia Taylor-Brown. Again, first race back this year after we saw her take a bit of a break, sort of was contemplating going to cycling, doesn't seem to have. Just came out today, the start list for T100 London, and Georgia is on the start list.
Yeah, I mean, big news. To be honest, I'm kind of removed in North America, so I don't really know what she's been up to at all. I mean, it was good to see her back racing, and to be honest, like she come 14th or 13th, 12th maybe,
14th.
And people might be like, "Oh, it's really off," but like she could literally race next weekend and come 4th at a WTS. It could be literally, it is a learning curve for if you haven't raced in that long to just switch back. So it could be, or she could be in that shape. But my guess is that she's going to catch lightning in a bottle. And by the end of the season, you're going to be going, did she even take a break? Like I think that's my opinion of what's going to happen.
Well, hopefully that lightning in the bottle is captured at Supertri over the next 4 weeks. And we will now transition to Supertri.
So let's go Georgia.
Yeah, because you are making your return, not this weekend, but next weekend to Supertri racing. You took a couple of years away from it, focusing on the Olympics. Supertri is going to your nation country, Toronto, Canada.
Yes,
mate, how you feeling about Supertri?
Yeah, I mean, we talked about it. I really want to get involved when I heard that Toronto was on it. Toronto's like the biggest city in Canada. And I don't have that many opportunities to race. I've had a few WTSs in Canada, but in general, there's not that many. And, maybe I'll be able to do some 70.3s over the next few years. But in general, there's not that much racing opportunity. So when I heard that, I wanted to get involved. And luckily, I knew someone who was also...
You knew a guy who knew a guy?
Yeah, I'm pretty stoked, and like the rosters come out for anyone who hasn't seen. I like our chances, but again, it's on paper. Anything can happen. Supertri is always crazy, and
Mm.
shit happens in every race that you go, oh my god, or crashes or sickness or whatever. So you can have some really good luck and some bad luck, kind of like the mixed relay. Just anything can happen. But on on paper, I like our team, and it's pretty cool to get to race. I'm going to do the two North American ones for sure in Toronto and Chicago. So that's going to be fun and not a long trip from Flagstaff. So I'm pumped. Yeah, it's nice to be back in the fold, and the my mixed relay result is more encouraging than my Hamburg result. So yeah.
It's been again I've sourced the athletes for Crown Racing this year, and it has been a battle, to be honest. And I think it is just because for this year, of all the years in the history that I've followed the sport, this is the most jam-packed across every distance and discipline. We're talking from super sprint, super tri stuff, WTCS World Cups, T100s, challenge races, Ironman 70.3s, Pro Series, Ironmans. It is such a jam-packed season, and actually just trying to like the idea of just getting four men and women to race the series this year was actually impossible. And I think we've just set up the WhatsApp group. We're in the process of setting up the group for Crown Racing with all the athletes. I think there's 16 athletes on the team this year. Like
Yeah,
it's
that's crazy.
actually crazy that yeah, we've had to like some races we're going to have. I think we've got like Chicago basically the second round. I think the women's race, there's only one female race in that race who's doing more. Like I think three of the women race in Chicago are just doing Chicago at this point. Like it's been very difficult, but I think it also I really like it because it does add this element of uncertainty and this. I've gone from, and again, we can use Supertri or even WTCS or T100. This idea that the same athletes racing every week. I'm sort of a bit, I'm moved beyond that. I don't necessarily need that as a fan anymore. Like it's good to have the athletes you're familiar with, but I do like this year that almost every race is going to have a very different dynamic just because different athletes are going to be doing
Yeah,
every race almost. It's going to be really exciting.
I mean it's less predictable, as you said
Yeah.
before. WTS, WCCS. Yeah, I mean I've been maybe your man assistant GM
Yeah, you have.
to. So, I have a lot of friends on the team, which is nice. Some people I'm not as familiar with, but um, some friends on the team and fellow Canadian Charles Paquette, which if you guys aren't that familiar, coming from long course, he's a stud. So it's pretty cool. Even be Canadian teammates and on Crown Racing together too. It'll be fun. And yeah, I mean we've got a stacked lineup, so hopefully we can live up to some of the hype. For myself, um, maybe I'll give the listeners a workout of the week for Supertri. What I
Go
did
on, do
before.
it.
So track workout, speed workout before Hamburg, and again I race like crap there, but I did 5 by a K with 2 minutes rest. I averaged 241 per K,
It's
and then I
disgusting.
ran 3K threshold in 845. So at 255 per K. So I did 8K work at basically 243 average. Was good enough for 21st in Hamburg, but hopefully a lot better in Supertri. But that's just like a context like of how fast a lot of these guys are running, and how fast you need to be doing working out to be competitive at this short distance stuff.
I think it also, for me at least, shows that there is this depth at short course at the moment because while there's a lot of the names that I would have expected. Like, there's a few people who aren't racing Supertri this year that I'm quite like. For example, Matt Hauser isn't racing Supertri this year. I tried to get him. I'm genuinely disappointed that we won't see Matty racing Supertri. Like somebody like Miguel Hidalgo who's doing so well at WTCS, also not racing Supertri. There's plenty of names that aren't doing it this year, but I think if you then look at the athletes that are, it's still absolute fire, mate. Like they're and I get very optimistic about the future of short course because as much as there is like some of the, I guess, the older guard like yourself, and it seems weird to
Yeah,
say that to you, I am so excited about some of the people that are coming in, some of the people that we've got racing for us this year that have never raced Super Truck before, which blows my mind a little bit, to be honest. Like, I'm like, how hasn't, some of these people ever lined up for this before? So I think that, yeah, I'm looking at this season quite, yeah, quite excited about it. Not even just because I've sort of, that's the extent of I'm not doing it. I've sourced a team. That's a job done for me. I get to actually just sit back and enjoy it now, and I am looking forward to it.
yeah. I mean, I think it's been listening, talking to you. It's been stressful, but it's been a fun project. And what
Mm.
will be more fun is if we go out and smash the race, and you
Mm.
get to look back and go, I was part of that. I set that up. So, but the same way, I'm sure there's a little pressure on your shoulder of, man, these guys better race well.
Well, there has been a few where, yeah, because it's like Chris has just been like, sort it. And I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
okay. And some of the, like, that's, I think I don't, if I'm told to do something, I just go and do it. I don't just go, oh, is this okay? So I've just done it. And like some of the athletes, I've not even told them. I'm just like, I've got them. They're like, oh, okay. So yeah, there is probably that hint of like, God, I hope they don't fuck it up, but we'll find out.
It's funny when you're talking about like old guard and like saying me, and yeah, I'm 30. But what was funny when they did the Olympic press release for Team Canada, I had myself, Charles Paquette, and Emmy Legault, one of the women, and the article is basically like old man and young kids race. Well, I was 30, Charles was 28, and Emmy was 27. So, but they were both their first Olympics, and I was at my third. So the
Mm.
article made it sound like I was about 70 and they were turning 18, but we are 2 years in age apart. And
Well,
it's the same thing. Like everyone's not that much younger than me or in and around my age. I'm not the oldest racing, but I've been around for a long time.
Well, the other thing as well, Tyler, is if people just Google Tyler Mislawchuk, which I am known to do fairly often, there's
Yeah.
photos of you when you're 13, there's photos of when you're 30, and they look very much the same. So
Yeah.
it's not.
Other than my shaved head, I haven't aged much. I look about 5 years old when I've got the clean shaven face.
Well, look, mate, I'm looking forward to seeing you race in Supertri next weekend. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm getting everybody's friend Joe Skipper's coming on to do the second half of this episode with me. We're going to talk about what he did at Swansea over the weekend and a bit about Lake Placid this weekend. But Tyler, if people want to find you on social media, where do they need to go?
Real Mislawchuk, baby.
That's it. I'll put a link in the show notes. Tyler, thanks for chatting. I'll talk to you later.
Later, guys.
Well, just like that, we have transitioned from one professional triathlete, the shepherd Tyler Mislawchuk, to another. And that is, of course, friend of the podcast, Joe Skipper. Joe, mate, how you going?
I'm good, thanks, Tim. As you can see, just having my breakfast. Got a big day training planned and stuff like that, and we've got to get Arabella up and to nursery soon. So yeah, it's all go go go.
Well, mate, to be honest, you're coming off the high of your Ironman triathlon broadcasting. I'm not going to say debut because I know you did a little bit over in ZLMC last year, but this is the first time you've been full on part of the broadcast team commentating the race. How was it?
Yeah, it was good. I can definitely think of a few ways that I could improve, and like I could definitely make it better next time. But I really enjoyed it, and yeah, I hope I can get some more opportunities to do it when it fits in. If and also if Ironman would have me back on. Seemed like the feedback was pretty good, but you never really know because even if you did a bad job, you'd probably still get people messaging you saying it was really good. So who knows? But yeah, no, I thought it was great being on the other side of the fence for a change.
Does it change your perspective? I know that one of the things we discuss a lot necessarily on podcasts, but in regular conversation is about how we struggle with some of the broadcast. Does it give you a different appreciation for what goes on behind the scenes, or are you going, actually wasn't that hard? I don't know why they fuck it up so often.
It was pretty much what I expected. Like, I think you need to do a bit more research, bit of research beforehand. There's a lot more research that I'd like to do if I did it again, like asking more people, like some people, the athletes that are racing, some more questions, just to compile like a whole load of more information and some interesting stuff, which then you could talk about on the broadcast. The only things that I'd say which would be good if they did would be if they could drop that bike back and go to more people so you could talk about more people. You don't like when the camera's around one person for a long period of time, it's a bit naff because it's hard to bring up other stuff into the conversation. But yeah, it wasn't that bad. Like I'd say it was probably about what you'd expect.
Can I ask, with because I'm curious about how this works? Do you have any say over what you're shown, or do you literally have the same stream we're seeing? You just have to speak over it.
Just the same stream what you're saying.
Okay.
We don't have any say. It's so when you're on the call, obviously one of the bits that's quite confusing is you're talking to them. So obviously Matt was in the studio in Boulder, which made things a bit harder because there was a bit of lag.
Hmm.
So when I was talking and he was talking, we would hear each other like 2, 3 seconds after. So that
Yep.
made it a bit awkward to do. And then the lag between what we were seeing with our eyes and what was actually happening on the stream was meant to be 3 seconds as well, but it was actually like 30 seconds.
Oh
So
wow.
when we were
Okay.
standing at the swim start, we could see what was happening with our eyes 30 seconds before you guys could see it on the stream. So that made it a bit hard because we were supposed to be commentating on the course and saying about what was happening, but you couldn't quite say what was happening because it was nowhere near to happening on the actual real life on the stream. Um, but then when we got to different parts of the course and we were all commentating on the same screen, then on the same stream, then that was all right. But yeah, we don't really have any say. It's just the directors, and you can hear them talking to each other because we had this app where you can talk to them, and they can talk to you or give feedback and stuff while you're actually commentating. But yeah, they just needed to. Ideally they need to like send some people further back and just get um, a few more angles and stuff.
Okay, well, let's talk about the race in itself. Swansea 70.3 over the weekend. What were your actual thoughts about the racing?
I mean, the racing seemed absolutely brilliant for me. Like, I don't know if it's just because it seems better because you're actually there in person, but I thought it was really good. Harry Palmer winning, obviously, like that's definitely his breakthrough result. Like, I know he's had some other wins and he's been like top 10 at Worlds, but I would say winning a Pro Series against some like decent competition, like Hogan Haug was second in Frankfurt, pushed Christian to the line. Leon Chevalier, third place in Kona, wasn't it last year? You know, so to beat those guys and lots of other decent athletes. That was definitely his best result, and he did it quite comfortably on the run in the end. It looked like, you know, by about 5K to go, he was, or more than 5K. I think the last half he was in the front, and then got a bit of a gap, and it didn't look like anyone else was going to be challenging him for the win.
It's funny because when I was watching, I mean, I know that there was I think I was watching it. First, I want to say I think you did a really good job on the broadcast. I think it was one of the better broadcasts that I've enjoyed. But I was watching, and I think I can't remember. I went to the kitchen to get a drink or something, and it was sorry, Sam Dickinson suddenly was first off the bike, and I was like, what the hell happened? I didn't even know that he was that close. The next minute he was leading, and I actually thought at that point, because I know that obviously Sam Dickinson has a very strong background in short course, went to the Olympics last year, got a medal in the mixed team relay, surprised me in Paris, and he's had a couple of good 70.3 performances. I thought he probably had it in the bag at that point. And I was very, I mean, Harry Palmer, I think you said it's a breakthrough performance. I'm so happy for Harry. He's such a good guy. So it's really nice to see. Yeah, I mean, I've seen a lot of people say he's a professional YouTuber, not a professional athlete. So to see him actually not just win a race, but like beat a world-class field, I thought was fantastic for him.
Yeah, and you know, you said about Sam Dickinson that like he was going to get it. So towards the end of the bike, there was a bit. I thought a few of them had gone into the penalty tent at first because it looked like they just swung off, but it weren't. It was like a crash. They almost went the wrong way. So they went into like the barriers and like had to unclip and get their feet out, and they lost 20 seconds, like two or three of them, and that was like Harry, Leon. I can't remember if there was one more or not. So that was why when Sam came into transition, he was in the front, but he managed to get a 20-second lead on second through transition and 30 seconds on Harry. So Harry had to bridge up 30 seconds onto him. That could have been so decisive, that because when you saw Sam coming in to transition, I was obviously in transition, you could see their faces and stuff. Like he was absolutely nailing it through. Like that was like a full on effort to get a bit of a gap. And I thought, oh, this is going to be tough for those guys to catch back up. And for the first 3 or 4 kilometers, Sam was like holding them, I think, and he looked pretty good. But then the wheels just started to fall off. And I think part of that is because the Swansea bike course is so hard. It's up and down, and you have to really surge with the power. And I think there were some good people that were on paper really good runners in that group. But the fact that the bike was just so hard, like with the surges, I think it just took it out of them, and they weren't able to run as well as what they would need to. And obviously Harry to run a 111, like on that run course is like bang on. It is a fast run course, but after that the bike's a lot harder, and you can see in the times. I mean, they rode like 2:10, so you got to take in mind they're riding for like 15 minutes longer than what you would in normal 70.3, and having to put in way more spikes in power. Like you're not just sitting at a steady power output on that. You know, the climbs you're really hitting them hard, and then the descents you can't pedal. So yeah, it definitely makes it a lot harder running off the bike on that.
Do you think as well? Because I mean, I think Leon Chevalier is an absolutely amazing athlete, but he is a little bit hit and miss. Yeah, great performance from Leon in second place, running a 112, which I would actually, I'm not surprised. I know he's a very good athlete, but do you think it's because he is quite a strong athlete, like very strong biker? Maybe that sort of suited him here because, especially the fact that it's a 70.3, I've always sort of seen Leon as more of that Ironman sort of athlete anyway. Yeah, maybe it's just the strongman course sort of lent to his strengths a little bit.
Yeah, I think so. And also, it looked like a really legit, fair kind of race. Like, it didn't seem like there was much uh, moto assistance, like which we thought there might be before the race, like when we were talking amongst ourselves, like as the commentators, because the roads are quite narrow,
Mm.
and thought they might. And when you catch up with the age groupers and stuff, and loads of people on the course, thought it could be like a bit hit and miss, but it wasn't. It actually seemed really fair, and I think like that then enabled Leon to have a fair race, and then he was able to bridge up like a 2.5 minute gap, which is very impressive, and he did that within the first half of the bike, I think, or maybe about, yeah, first roughly around like halfway, he bridged up like a 2.5 minute gap, which is incredible. And then he started attacking them. And then, yeah, like you say, because he's a really strong athlete, when he gets onto the run, like he can run a 112 pace. And him and Harry have been training at altitude in Andorra. So obviously the hard work has paid off for them both.
Another thing I'd like to talk about, and it's just an interesting sort of comparison, and maybe the ride a couple of weeks ago sort of impacted him. But Christian Hogenhag, we saw how strong he was on the bike at Ironman Frankfurt a few weeks ago, and then to see him come to this race and not be close to fastest bike, minutes behind somebody like Leon, for example. I guess what I'm wondering is it residual fatigue from what was an incredible performance from him in Frankfurt? Is it a fact that maybe the bike strength? I mean, you had Magnus Ditlev and Christian and those guys in Frankfurt. Like, why do you think we see Christian's bike split being not as competitive in a race like this?
I think some of it's definitely fatigue, and then some of it could be the fact that you have to really spike the power. So if
Mhm.
some of these people are really good at just holding like a steady, nice, like fairly high power for a long period of time, that's great. And for a course like Frankfurt, that might do you well. But for Swansea, it's like for someone like Hogan Haug side, you need to be hitting hills well over 400 watts every single time, and then taking the corners really fast, leaning it round. I mean, I do think he was off because I don't think he ran as well as what he could have. But so I think a little bit of fatigue, and then potentially I don't really know what his characteristics are like as a cyclist. Like, is he really good at like them spiky efforts, like them 2 3 minute 60 second like consistent like power, spikes, and then the recovery between efforts. But I mean, still a fairly solid race for him. I mean, he was like in the almost in the lead pack for the swim, lost like 20 something seconds, but like pretty decent. Like he was in the mix. Then he bridged up to the front with like Harry. So he was in the mix on the bike. It was just the run that let him down. I don't know whether or not he would have had a 111 anyway in his locker, but I certainly think on that course he could have run like if he was on a really good day, a 112, 113. So I think for him, he would have needed to break away on the bike. You could say that you would expect him to ride the same as, say, Leon on the course like that. So
Yeah.
if he had done that, he might have got off the bike with a minute, 2 minute lead, which would have been best case scenario for him. And then it would have been, could he have run a 113? Well, I think he did run a 113 anyway, but could he have run a 113 off that hard bike and held the others off? And they would have been chasing him down. So I think if he'd have been on a really good day, he could have been off the bike in at the front, and then it would have just been a case of can the others catch him on the run. But also, that's just me having a guess at how I think things went, because without actually looking at his training or seeing what powers he pushed and stuff like that, it's all speculation.
Let's talk about the women's race now. It was pretty much a one-woman show. I think we were chatting a little bit during the race while you were commentating. I think as soon as Kat Matthews took the lead, it was sort of game over. But looking at the results just quickly now, Daniela Kleiser, mate, she ran a 1:14:13, 7 minutes faster than Kat Matthews, 8 minutes faster than second place. Her swim wasn't so terrible. She probably could have been, within contention of the fight. I mean, I don't know if Kat Matthews backed it off. That seems like a slow run for Kat. But man, that's a very, very impressive run from Daniela Kleiser.
Yeah, and we all knew that she was going to run really fast. She's got a really big reputation for it. Apparently, she's had some races like in the last month or two where she's run really well, like some of the T100 ones. But it's just her swim, isn't it? Like 8.5 minutes she lost in the swim alone, didn't she?
Terrible, yeah. 32:23. That's almost Joe Skipper bad. Like it's
Worse than that, mate. Like, flipping heck, I mean, if I lose 8 minutes in an Ironman, that's a bad swim for me. She's lost it in a 70.3, mate. Like that's incredibly bad. But then the thing is, she could still get away with being a bad swimmer and losing, say, 4 minutes on the swim and
yeah.
actually being in the mix. Like she doesn't actually have to really improve her swim that much. Like it's not like we're saying to her she needs to kind of get in the front pack or get in the chase pack at like 90 seconds down. It's like she could still, even if she was losing 3.5 4 minutes, like and swimming like
Yeah.
like Sam Long or someone, and Lionel sometimes swims like 2 minutes down, 2.5. But like if she was to swim 2.5, 3 minutes down,
She'd win
she's
the
like
race.
still quite a lot. Yeah, she'd be right in the mix because then she'd be with some faster cyclists as well. She'd be able to work with like, I mean, she might have been with like Anne Reichman then, if those two were like working together. But then I do hear some people say like sometimes, I don't know if this happened in this one, that like you can get the back end, the front end of the male age group race that helps. I don't know whether or not she did, but like but then anyway, that run is like absolutely rapid. A 1:14 on that course. I mean, she run faster than Sam Dickinson.
Mm. The looking through the results as well. I mean, like I said, Kat Matthews dominated. In second place, we had Rebecca Anderbury. I have to admit, I'm not familiar with Rebecca, but some other names. Lizzie Rayner, a name that we see popping up a lot. She was good for fifth place. Hannah Devet. I'll be honest, I probably expected a bit more from Hannah. I think when we were chatting, I said Hannah's one that I think could do better. She ran a 1:27. I'm assuming the bike probably cost her a little bit, but I would have expected her to finish a bit higher, to be honest.
Yeah, I thought she was going to be in the mix for the win, to be honest. Like I thought Kat would have the edge, and I found it really hard to see anyone that could really push her like to the limit. But I thought that Hannah would potentially run her close. And when they dropped Kat by like 2 and a bit minutes in the swim, I thought, oh, this is actually could be pretty close here. Like if because I thought the bike might be like a bit of Hannah's weakness compared to like Kat, so I thought maybe they could get off at the start of the run together or very close, and then on the run it can. I know Kat's a really good runner, but it can be anyone's to play for. And Kat was coming off Hamburg and having a bit of a break, so she wasn't going to be in like top form. So potentially there was a chance that some of them could take her, but no, she when she got on the bike and she kind of took over the lead, it was like really hard to see anyone. And when that Rebecca started off on the run at the start for the first half, took a bit of time out of Cat and took it to around 2 minutes. I think she took it from 2:30 to around 2 minutes. You thought, oh, this is going to be really interesting now, this next 3 or 4K, because if the gap comes down to like 140, 135, then Cat could be under threat here and we could have a really exciting race. But I think Cat saw her at the turn, must have upped it a little bit, or Rebecca slowed down after the first 5K, and then the gap started going in Cat's favour, and then it was kind of like you knew what was going to happen. It was a bit of a shame really. But the battle for second and third was really, really close. It came right down to the wire. Like all three girls were like they must have been within 30 seconds of each other, weren't they? Like if you look at the results, I mean, it
think it
seemed
was
very
about,
close.
I think, so three, six, about 30 odd seconds from second to third, and then probably another 10 seconds, 15 seconds from third to fourth. So yeah, all very, very close. I mean, not as
When
close
you
as we saw in Yon Shopping, but still pretty bloody tight.
And when we were standing literally 300 meters away from the finish line, you could see right in the distance for about another 700 meters, and you could see all three of them on the same straight together, like running towards the finish. It looked quite exciting.
That's amazing. Again, I think the course looks amazing. I was watching it thinking, I mean, a few things from watching it. Firstly, I think it was very interesting to see, and I don't know whether it's just so we don't ever get that close or what, but like you could really see the effort that Kat Matthews was putting on the bike. Like every time she was on screen, it didn't look like she was just riding. It looked like she was riding hard. And then the other thing I thought watching it was this would make a wonderful 70.3 World Championship course. I think it'd be a great course for a World Champs.
Yeah, there's loads of courses to be honest. What they could use in the UK that would make fantastic world champs courses. Loads of like harder to more technical riding, stuff that actually tests you. It's just a shame that loads of the courses nowadays seem to be going the other way, and they keep making them flat, fast, and boring. But yeah, like that would make a great course. Like apparently the race in Taupo, they had a really exciting course for that last year, and they had it all approved. And then the guys came over from higher up in America and said, no, we can't use that. The Americans will never get around the corners.
See, it's
Uh,
interesting because I remember in 20, again, God, I'm like that guy back in my day, but I remember when Australia had the 70.3 World Championships on the Sunshine Coast. And it was the first time I was ever motivated to try to qualify. And Sunny Coast was, again, it was a flat, fast race. That's probably why I liked it. And when it became a World Champs course, they're like, nope. And they put this big fuck off hill right in the, like, and I mean, very steep hill in the middle of the bike course, completely changed it. And I loved it. It was like, oh, how good is this? Like actually challenge. And there was that period, I think, when a race would become a world championship, where they would make it a harder bike course in particular. And yeah, it is. It does seem though that's sort of in the review mirrors a little bit. Like I know that Lady wasn't particularly tough. I mean, Nice is a tough course, but yeah, it does seem that they've sort of softened on that a little bit.
COVID boosters softened everyone up, mate.
Fuck yeah, Joe. Let's turn our attention to this weekend's racing because this weekend we have one of your favorite Ironmans. You have won this race in the past. You were a course record holder until bloody Trevor Foley went and pipped you last year. But Ironman Lake Placid is happening this weekend. It's a pretty good field, mate.
Yeah, it is a good field. I'm actually really looking forward to watching this race and seeing how it pans out. I'm hoping Trevor Foley is in really good form like
Same.
last year. And I know he's had a bit of a rocky start, but he seemed like he was coming a bit round in the last 70.3 that he did. But also, I remember last year he had that crash with the car and he
Mm.
couldn't race too much before Lake Placid. And I think he did like Chattanooga 70.3, which might have been before, if I remember, or if it wasn't before, it was just after. But I think it was before. And he was kind of getting a bit better as it was going into it. But he was, when he raced in Lake Placid, you didn't think it was going to go as well as what it did for him, looking at his previous results. So I'm hoping that he can race Placid in the same form as what he did in some of the others. And he managed to run 2:36, which on that run course is phenomenal. And caught Matt Marco out for like, I don't know, what did he have, like 13, 14 minutes, something like that off the bike. And Trevor managed to run him down and get the win, go under 8 hours. I really hope we can see another battle between those two, like we did last year. And then Leon as well, if he can recover from Swansea. I know Andy Horsfall-Turner's raced Swansea as well, so that's another one that's doing the dirty double.
Hogan Hug as well. Is Christian Hogan
Yeah,
going across? Jesus
Hogan
Christ.
Hauser there now already. Like I saw in his Instagram, he's literally got to Placid like yesterday. But I think Hogan
Fuck.
Haug's going to be feeling it. I honestly
Mm.
think like Swansea, I personally think it looked like a bit of fatigue and a bit heavy legged, and I think more travel because the thing is, from England, you think the travel's a lot easier than what it is to Lake Placid because you look at the flight and you fly to New York generally, 6 hour flight, and you think in your head, oh, I'm there 6 hours and that's it. But it's not. You have to hire a car, and that takes a load of time, doesn't it? Like normally that airport in New York takes ages to go through, an hour and a half, something like that normally. Then you go to the car hire place, you lose another 40, 50 minutes, something like that. Then you hire the car, then you have a 5 and a bit hour drive to Lake Placid. So the drive is almost as long as the flight.
Mm.
Then you get there and you sort yourself out, and then obviously you've got the drives to the airports at the start. So when you add the whole travel day, you think to yourself, oh, like at first, oh, it's only going to be about 7 or 8 hours, but it's not. It's about a 16-hour travel day. It's absolutely huge when you add in the drive and the flight. You've got a 6 hour, 6 and a bit hour drive, or 5 and a bit hour drive, and a 6 hour flight. So it's 11 and a half hours, and that's not including getting to the airport in the morning and all the other waiting around. So it does take a lot out of you. And when you add in the fact that you've got the fatigue of having raced a 70.3 a day or two beforehand, then getting over a bit more time difference, you've still got like 5 time zones to get over all these little bits when you're trying to get over a tough racing schedule, like Frankfurt, he would have gone deep because it was a great race for him. He would have seen the splits going up. He knew he had a chance of winning against a huge field. So, that you would have been pushing to the limits. And I think that's taken a bit the edge. But then one
Yeah.
thing I would say is I don't know. The rumors are that if he's racing Nice World Champs, because his missus is the baby's meant to be due around that time.
Okay.
So he's racing now to get the races out the way. So the pressure's not on him in September and he might not be racing that, which is why he's doing it. So he might be battling a bit of fatigue and people might be thinking, oh, why is he doing that? He'd be better off going all in for Nice. Well, he might not even be racing Nice. I think there's a slim chance that he's racing Nice. So the idea is to try and get some good results now, make the most of it, and then take a bit of time off in September. And I guess he'll race like 70.3 Wales or something in November or October, whenever it is.
Okay. I think you mentioned Trevor Foley. It was this performance last year that made me think that this guy's got a real shot at Kona. Like going into Hawaii thinking, he could be. I mean, I think Trevor Foley has so much potential. He crashed just before transition, I think. Was that, am I getting my year? That was last year, right?
That was last year in Kona, yeah.
Yeah. And he sort of went a bit. So I think that maybe the familiarity of it. I know that he has had a slightly rough start, but that race he had against Sam Long a couple of weeks ago, was it at Eagleman or wherever it
That's the one.
was
Yeah, Eagle Man.
very positive sign for me. And I think that probably unlike Sam Long, I feel like Trevor probably has a more natural ability at the Ironman, where I think Sam Long's better at the 70.3. So if he's on, I think you're right. That Matthew Marquardt, who was exceptional in Cairns, it could be a really good battle between those guys. And then sort of looking through, I know I've got the star list in front of me, but I'm actually a bit nervous about reading it because I look at a lot of these names and I'm like, are we sure that they're racing? So I'm sort of reluctant to go through it, but I think, there's some pretty fascinating names. Is Matt Hansen? Matt Hansen seems to be racing every
Matt Hansen's racing. He's definitely
fucking
racing.
hell.
I saw his
Jesus Christ.
thing. Yeah, he's
He's gonna
gonna.
run. He's probably gonna run another 2:29 or something. He's been running the house down lately, so must be
The
getting a
only
sub
lucky
2:30 bonus or something.
The only lucky thing for him is that he hasn't really got that much travel because he would have been heading back to the States after Roth.
Mm.
That's a huge advantage. Like he's just traveling from home. But I think that two sub 2:30 and like someone told me that he really had to go for that. Like afterwards, he was laying down for a bit. Once he got it, obviously he had a big bonus. If he did go 2:30. But I kind of feel like that's going to take a lot out of you, isn't it? Surely, I
Yeah,
mean, to be
definitely.
honest, with Matt, it all comes down to the bike, doesn't it? Matt needs to be off the bike within 10 minutes of the lead. Then he's a huge threat. He can't get down, he can't get off the bike 20 minutes down. And which, he might lose 4 or 5 minutes on the swim, you know. So then he's only got 15 minutes to play with, which sounds like a lot, but like he does seem
Trevor
to
Foley
lose.
can
Like
run too.
Trevor Foley can run, but is Trevor Foley run as well as what he has done last year?
Mm.
Like, I don't know. I feel like a 2:36 would be a bit of a would be like, oh wow, I didn't realize Trevor was in that good a form this year. That's how I would kind of view it. Looking at how everything's gone in the lead up to it, I think he's definitely got the potential to. But I kind of see with how everything's gone with Trevor in the lead up to this one and everything, maybe a 2:41, 2:42. If Matt's on a great day, absolutely smashes it, gets like potentially, what do you reckon Matt could run? 2:34,
2:32.
2:35. Do
2:32,
you reckon?
2:33. Yeah, yeah.
You reckon on the Placid course?
But
That,
What did Trevor Foley run last year? 2:36?
yeah, I know, but you got to take into account like Roth's 2 minutes
Yeah, but
short.
also I just assume Hanson's going to be rolling across. He's probably going to ride 30 minutes slower than everybody else, and like he did in
Like you,
Cairns.
I mean, you have to go up this absolute beast of a hill like twice
See,
on the
I don't
long
know the
course,
course
and
that well, so I don't
yeah,
know.
like
I've not expected Matt Hansen to run as fast as he has at either of those races, and he surprised me. That's why I'm just going to go conservatively low, um, just to cover my
conservative lower.
bases.
I only think he's going to run a 2:32 in
I didn't
Placid.
say conservatively high. I said conservatively low. Uh, I mean, who do you pick? Who's your winner at this race?
Um, I think it's honestly like there's so many people that could. It just depends on like who's on the top day. But I'd like to see Trev do it. To be honest, I'd like to see
So
him. So I'm going to pick Trevor just because that's who I would like to see get the win.
I'd like to see. I'm going to pick Matthew Marquardt just because I think he really impressed me in Cairns, and yeah, I don't know. He just seems to have had a slightly more consistent build where Trevor's had a bit of a hot and cold start to the year. So yeah, I don't
I,
know. We'll see.
I don't know.
I'd like to see Leon do well.
I didn't know if you know, but he's actually a doctor, Matthew Marquardt.
I heard that he's actually doing his medical placement, and he didn't he train for an Ironman on a cruise ship as well?
Yeah, I mean, it's like
Amazing.
the over 60s training plan that is, isn't it? Book a cruise with your missus and do some training in the cabin.
Hey Joe, I know you've been organising a cruise trip just before your next race, mate. So come on, let's like don't be a hater.
Makes,
Get on board the
it makes
program.
well, one thing that I would say to look into that and to like if you're looking at a bit about training observations is when he went onto his cruise ship he was training, it's obviously quite clear that he would have been doing more high intensity training, wouldn't he? Because I think I've looked at what he said and he said he wasn't really doing much more than 2.5 hours of cycling in a go. And I reckon that he was obviously doing quite a bit of like high intensity because he was like, well, I'm not just going to ride easy for 2 hours. It's absolutely pointless. Like I'm going to do some intervals. He wouldn't have been doing as much running and swimming. So he'd probably been a bit fresher. So that high intensity training that he was doing, it was clear that when he went to Cairns and he had actually like recovered properly and managed to get the gains from that, it made no end of benefits because he flew on the bike, didn't he? Once he got going after the cramps, like I
So
think he would have had the fastest bike split. You know, if you looked at like the last 130 Ks, something like that of the bike, he would have flown. That makes you think, do a lot of people when they do an Ironman, do a lot of volume, but they're almost doing volume on the bike for the sake of doing it because like, oh, I'm doing an Ironman, I'm going to do lots of 4 or 5 hour rides, 6 hour rides at an easy pace. But what is it actually doing for you? Is it actually making you faster at the end of the day, or are you doing it just because that's how we've always done it, in triathlon?
yeah, I think it's interesting. We'll see this weekend. It'll be fascinating to see. The women's race. Let's talk about that a little bit now. In the women's race, we've got Daniela Lewis, Jackie Herring racing again, Marta Sanchez, Solveig Loveseth. I don't believe Lyda Williams is going to race because she raced the Ironman over the weekend. Holly Lawrence is on there. Regan Hollyoak is on there. Maya Stage Nilsson, Sarah True, Tamara Jewett, Penny Slater, Rebecca Clark. Uh, what are you expecting to see with this women's race, mate? I mean, Jackie Herring's in pretty good form.
I'd like to see Jackie Heron get it. I think she comes across as a really nice person. I like her. I'd also like to see Sarah True do well. She's been a bit hit and miss, isn't she? Well, she doesn't seem to race too much, but when she does, she generally seems to be at the pointy end and like normally on the podium. So she could definitely be a huge threat, especially if she's had a good training block. But yeah, Jackie Herring, like if she gets a good result here, like if she can win this, she's actually right in the mix for the Pro Series because then she's going into World Champs with like perfect scores, which is actually better than what Kat's had in the full distance because Kat lost some points in Hamburg. So then all of a sudden, Jackie Herring is right in the mix for it.
I think the problem that Jackie Herring might have, and I know this is a big call, and I'm not even sure if she's actually, maybe this start list is inaccurate, but if she is, I think Solveig Lovseth could be a bit of a factor here. She was third at her Ironman debut, or she podiumed at her Ironman debut. Was that that might have been in Hamburg, I think, off the top of my head.
Yeah, it was in Hamburg. Yeah, she went really quick on her debut, but it's like Rocky, mate. Her to me is the like was it
Ivan
the is it
Drago.
Apollo? Ivan Drago? Yeah, she's like the Ivan Drago of like Lake Placid, and like I'm rooting for the Rockies. I'm rooting for Laura Phillip and like Sarah True. Like, but yeah, Drago. She's got all the like high tech stuff. She's got a million lactate strips she's taken out with
I
all
will
the other.
crush you.
You can imagine her talking like that, though, couldn't you? Like,
Yeah, I know. I do. Again, I know. I'm always very interested to see those athletes that transition across to the longer stuff. It's always like this, yeah, this fascination, I suppose. But yeah, I'm going to pick Solveig for the win in the women's race just because I know you're not going to. So there we go.
you love the Eastern Bloc Europeans, don't you?
Norwegians are not Eastern Bloc, mate. Thank you very much. And I am married to a Norwegian, so I have
East,
to have some sort of loyalty. Thank you very much.
east of me, mate. They're east of me.
Well, you're not in Europe, Joe, so that doesn't count either, mate. You made the choice to leave. Joe, the last thing I want to talk about this week, because I know you've got to get going, is the start list for Ironman Leeds has come out, and a familiar name is on that start list, a guy we see race all the time. It's, of course, Sam Laidlow.
Yeah, I mean, who knows how well he's going to go? Depends if he's I mean, he only needs to train 10 hours a week now, doesn't he? So I imagine he's probably going to go pretty well because not too hard to fit that amount of training, is it? Um, yeah, I think the field actually looks pretty
Pretty good.
like yeah, it's like it looks like a good English field. There's like some of the top Brits there. You've got Harry, who's stepping up to the full distance, which has been a long time coming, really, because he dabbled with it before, but he's not really committed to it. Kieran Linders, which will be interesting to see how he's going. I mean, in Frankfurt, he was up there until he lost his bottles. Swansea, he was third, so he's obviously going okay. So it'll be good to get kind of like a little bit of a tester against them. And also, it is a very tough course. It's up and down. It's three loops. It's going to be pretty technical with all the age groupers on there. It's definitely going to be a pretty tough day, and everyone's going to have to work hard. It's one of those kind of courses where being in a group isn't going to be of a huge benefit because it will just be so surgy, and you'll almost be riding someone else's race rather than your own race.
Mhm.
If you're like in the back of it. So I think it's a course that I could do quite well on.
Yeah, I think so too. I know that, yeah, we sort of discussed your decision to race it. And I mean, look, it's not your priority. Your priority is Nice. Obviously, all things are focused towards Nice. It's just basically from Roth, as we discussed, and I know you've come out and said that, there's a lot of positives from be taken from that performance. And now it's a case of just like polishing a few different things and using a couple of races to test things out. So it'll be good to see you out there and seeing how those changes have impacted you.
Yeah, yeah. No, I'm looking forward to it. To be honest, and it's quite an easy one for me to get to. It's only like 4 hours in the car, so it's almost like a home race, really.
Well, it is. This is basically Ironman UK now, right? They got rid of the other Ironman UK, so it's sort of it.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, you could say that. I was actually speaking to the organizer as well, and he had an amazing course that they were hoping to do, and they just got told they couldn't use it in the end, and it would have been a one loop course going all around like North Yorkshire and everything,
Oh,
like
wow.
really seeing it going over some awesome climbs. That would have been absolutely incredible. It would have been the best Ironman bike course in the world. Like there would have not been a course that would have compared to it, and it's such a shame they couldn't get it. But hopefully next year they will because it will make this race incredible.
Well, mate, to be honest, I think that an opportunity for you is you should be petitioning Ironman to bring Ironman Norwich to the fold. They want flat, they want fast. There's no hills. Perfect, mate. What are you talking? We could have an ocean swim in the beautiful coastal village of Cromer. Perfect spot for a swim. How good is that? I mean, it's the most incredible ocean I've ever seen in my life. You could roll around at Norfolk, and then you could run from Cromer straight down to Norwich, mate. It'd be perfect. What do you reckon? Get on it.
I think it would be amazing. Yeah, we actually
Actually,
do
would
have some
be.
more.
To be honest, it would be a pretty good race. I think I'm joking, but it is a pretty special place. So I think it'll be a good spot.
Yeah, we do have some awesome roads for cycling. That would be you could make a fantastic bike course, that's for sure.
Well, Joe, thank you so much for your time. I know you've got to get going. So if people want to follow you along, they can obviously check out your podcast, Junkyard Dogs. You've got your Junkyard Dog community as well. People can join, get all the exclusive content, all that stuff. If people want to follow you on Instagram, what's your handle?
Not Another Average Joe, if you want to follow me on Instagram. That's probably one of the best ones to keep up to date, but also, like Tim said, the podcast and YouTube as well.
Exactly. Guys, thank you for listening. If you want to support this podcast, head to patreon.com/talking triathlon, bonus monthly podcast, WhatsApp group, Strava group, all that good stuff. It absolutely went off, Joe, while you were commenting over the weekend. I think I forwarded you a few messages from our WhatsApp group when people were complimenting you. We've also got the YouTube channel. It's the best place to interact. So let us know your thoughts about who's going to win, who's not going to win this weekend, what you think Joe's chances are in Leeds. Yeah, all that good stuff. We've got an email address, talkingtriathlon@gmail.com. We're on Instagram at Talking Triathlon. I'm at tford14. James is at bale.james85, I think. That's the stuff he normally does. Joe, mate, a pleasure as always. I'll talk to you later.
I bet you liked the World of Warcraft reference when
I loved it, mate. I very much appreciated that. I thought my influences have rubbed off on Joe. The big question before we wrap, Joe, is how many times have you seen Superman yet, mate?
I haven't seen it yet.
I've seen it 4 times.
I'm booked to see it in the next couple of days.
4 times I've seen it.
Neck, mate. If you spent as much time watching Superman as you did in your triathlon training, mate, you'd be racing. You'd be up there with Laidlow.
It's true, mate. 10 hours, perfect. Anyway, Joe, thank you so much, man. I'll talk to you later.
Yeah, bye.